By the 43rd cycle after the fall of Lithera, the galaxy had accepted a single, bitter truth. Princess Caroline of the Aurelian Concord was dead. Her name was no longer spoken in council chambers. Her banners no longer flew above orbital spires. The star lanterns once lit in her honor had dimmed to ceremonial embers, kindled only on days of mourning. Official records stated that her royal cruiser had been annihilated during the ambush at the Veiled Reach, torn apart by insurgent fleets and swallowed by the unstable gravity wells that haunted the region. No body was ever recovered. At first, hope lingered. Escape pods, secret jump signatures, miracles whispered in prayer. But years passed, and hope, like everything else, obeyed entropy. The Concorde needed stability more than dreams, and so the story was sealed. Caroline was gone. The line of succession moved forward. History closed the chapter. Only the stars remembered otherwise. Far beyond the regulated trade routes, in a region of space marked on most maps as uninhabitable debris field 7X, Delta, a human ship drifted slowly through the wreckage of ancient wars. The vessel was small, asymmetrical, and clearly not built to Concorde standards. Its hull bore the scars of scavenging work, patched plating, mismatched thrusters, and a forward sensor array that looked rebuilt more than once. The ship's transponder identified it simply as Wayfarer. Inside, Elias Kerr floated in the pilot's harness, eyes fixed on a flickering projection. He had the look of someone accustomed to silence, late 30s, unremarkable at first glance, with the posture of a man who trusted machines more than people. Elias was a deep space recovery specialist, a profession that sat somewhere between engineer, archaeologist, and grave robber. He went where others wouldn't. Not for glory. For answers. Signal's still there, he muttered, adjusting the frequency filters. Weak, but consistent. The beacon had been calling for 3 days now. Not loud. Not urgent. Just persistent. A narrowband transmission cycling through an old encryption protocol, one Elias recognized from archived Concorde systems. Old. Too old to be active. He should have ignored it. Most scavengers did. Distress signals in dead zones usually meant automated loops, sensor ghosts, or traps laid by pirates who preyed on the curious. But this one was different. It wasn't asking for help. It was waiting. The source lay embedded in a vast field of broken hulls and frozen debris, the remains of dozens of ships, some dating back nearly half a century. Elias guided Wayfarer carefully through the maze, thrusters whispering as he followed the signal to a partially intact structure drifting near the center. It was a life pod, or what remained of one. The pod's exterior was fused with shrapnel and scorched by radiation storms. Its Concorde markings were faded but unmistakable. Royal-grade alloys, reinforced shielding, and a biometric seal that should have failed decades ago. Yet the pod was still powered. Elias swallowed. That's not possible. He extended a docking arm and carefully secured the pod against his ship's airlock. As pressure equalized, warning alerts flared across his console. Internal systems still active, life support cycling at minimal thresholds. Someone was inside. The hatch resisted at first, then opened with a hiss of ancient seals breaking. Cold vapor spilled into the airlock, and Elias stepped forward, heart pounding. Inside the pod lay a single figure, suspended in a gel-like stasis medium that shimmered faintly blue. The occupant was unmistakably Aurelian, tall, slender, with luminous silver skin and delicate bioluminescent patterns tracing her temples and hands. Even after decades in stasis, she was regal. Elias's breath caught as recognition slammed into him. Princess Caroline? Her face matched the historical images perfectly. The same calm eyes. the same faint crest markings of the royal bloodline. This wasn't a relic. This wasn't a clone or an echo. This was her. The galaxy had buried her. The Concord had mourned and moved on. And she was alive. Reviving a royal Aurelian after 43 cycles in degraded stasis was an act that bordered on insanity. Elias rerouted half of Wayfarer's power systems to stabilize the pod, carefully flushing the compromised gel and initiating a gradual neural wake sequence. Every step risked catastrophic failure. Hours passed. Then, slowly, her eyes opened. They were a soft, radiant gold, unfocused at first. Her bioluminescence flickered weakly as her body struggled to reconnect with sensation. Elias hovered near the control panel, afraid to speak. Finally, her gaze settled on him. "You are not Aurelian," she said, her voice hoarse but precise. Elias exhaled a breath he didn't realize he'd been holding.
"No."
"Human. Elias Kerr. You've been in stasis for a long time." Her brow furrowed. "How long?" He hesitated. 43 cycles. The light along her temples dimmed. "That means," she whispered, "the Concord believes I am dead." "They do," Elias said gently. "Everyone does." Silence stretched between them, broken only by the hum of life support systems. Saraline closed her eyes, absorbing the weight of lost decades, the fall of allies, the rise of successors, the galaxy reshaped without her. "I ordered my escort to flee," she said at last. "The ambush was not meant for survival, only delay. I believed if even one vessel escaped, the truth would endure." Elias nodded. "Records say the entire fleet was lost." "Then someone ensured that lie remained," she replied softly. Recovery turned into refuge. Elias couldn't take her back to Concord space. Not yet. Royal politics were dangerous, and a resurrected princess would shatter delicate power structures. Instead, he guided Wayfarer to a remote outpost on the fringe of neutral territory, where old contacts owed him favors and questions were currency. During the long journey, Saraline learned of everything she had missed. The splintering of the Concord Senate, the corporate protectorates, the uneasy peace forged without her influence. She listened without interruption, her expression unreadable. "You could stay hidden," Elias suggested one cycle, watching the stars drift past the viewport. "Live quietly. Let the past remain buried." She turned to him, her gaze steady. "Would you, if the galaxy had been shaped by your absence?" He didn't answer. The outpost, Kestrel Station, was a rusted ring of modules orbiting a dying red star. It smelled of recycled air and old metal, and its inhabitants ranged from traders and exiles to mercenaries who preferred not to be found. It was the last place anyone would expect a lost princess to reappear. For a time, Saraline remained hidden. Elias arranged forged credentials, civilian attire, and limited movement protocols. Yet even in obscurity, her presence drew attention, not because of who she was, but because of how she carried herself. People listened when she spoke. Disputes calmed. Decisions sharpened. Leadership, Elias realized, wasn't something she wore. It was something she was. Trouble came in the form of a Concord intelligence cruiser that arrived without warning, broadcasting an inspection mandate. Someone had detected anomalous data, royal-grade energy signatures echoing through the sector. "They're looking for you," Elias said quietly as alarms echoed through the station. Saraline straightened. "Then hiding has ended." Before Elias could object, she stepped into the open docking concourse, activating a compact emitter concealed to her wrist. The device projected her biometric signature into the station systems, unmistakable, irrefutable. Every screen lit up with her image. I am Princess Saraline of the Aurelian Concord. Her voice rang out, amplified and clear. I was betrayed, not lost. And I have returned. Chaos followed. The intelligence cruiser attempted to seize control of the station, but Kestrel's inhabitants, pirates, traitors, and outcasts alike, closed ranks. They had seen what Saraline represented, a chance at legitimacy, stability, and perhaps redemption. Elias fought beside them, not as a hero, but as someone protecting a truth too important to lose again. When Concord reinforcements finally arrived, it wasn't to silence her. It was to kneel. The evidence was overwhelming. The stasis pod, the beacon logs, the encoded testimony Saraline had preserved through decades of isolation. The conspiracy that had engineered her death unraveled publicly, taking powerful figures with it. In a galaxy weary of corruption, her return ignited something long dormant: belief. Months later, on the restored balconies of the Aurelian capital, Saraline addressed the Concord once more, not as a symbol resurrected, but as a leader tempered by loss. She spoke of vigilance, of the danger of complacency, of the quiet strength found in unlikely places. Her gaze found Elias in the crowd. After the ceremony, she sought him out among the gardens overlooking the city's glowing spires. You could remain, she said. The Concord owes you more than gratitude. Elias smiled faintly. I don't belong in palaces. No, she agreed. You belong where lost things are found. She pressed a small data crystal into his hand. If the galaxy ever forgets again, call me. Elias boarded Wayfarer the next cycle, its patched hull reflecting the starlight as it slipped back into the dark. Behind him, the Concord healed, slowly, imperfectly, but with purpose restored. Everyone had believed the princess was gone. They were wrong, because sometimes all it takes is one human, drifting through forgotten stars, to remind the galaxy that truth, like hope, can survive even the longest night. The coronation lights dimmed slowly over the Aurelian capital, leaving the sky washed in soft starlight. For the first time in decades, the palace towers stood without banners of mourning. In their place hung symbols of renewal, ancient sigils once believed obsolete, now reborn alongside their rightful bearer. Princess Saraline stood alone on the high balcony long after the crowds had dispersed. Below her, the city breathed. Air traffic flowed in clean arcs. Civilian ships moved without the nervous clustering that fear had bred for generations. The Concord was still fractured. Wounds like these did not heal overnight, but something fundamental had shifted. The galaxy no longer felt abandoned. Footsteps approached behind her. You should rest, Elias said quietly. You've carried enough history for one lifetime. She turned, her bioluminescent markings glowing faintly in the night air. History does not grow lighter when ignored, she replied. Only heavier. For a moment, neither spoke. They had shared silence before, inside drifting wreckage, inside a ship too small for destiny. But this silence was different. This one was full. The Senate will try to shape you, Elias said. They'll praise you, then pressure you. Power always does. Saraline nodded. I know. That is why I needed to return as myself, not as a myth. She looked at him then, truly looked. And that is why I needed you. Elias shook his head. I didn't save the Concord. I just followed a signal. You followed it when no one else would, she said. That is not chance. That is character. The next morning, the Concord received a transmission that would be replayed across systems for years to come. Princess Saraline formally declined absolute rule. Instead, she announced the Restoration Accord, a restructuring of governance that placed limits on centralized power, restored oversight to outer systems, and, most controversially, open representation to non-concord worlds that had once been ruled without voice. Some called it weakness. Others called it revolution. The truth was simpler. She had learned what isolation did to empires. Elias departed before the political storms could catch him. He preferred engines to echoing halls, honest rust to polished lies. As Wayfarer cleared the atmosphere, his console chimed. An encrypted channel opened. Elias Kerr, Saraline's voice said, softer now, unamplified by ceremony. The beacon you answered, it was designed to wait forever. I never believed anyone would come. He smiled. Someone always comes. Eventually. Then promise me something, she said. If the stars ever go quiet again, if truth is buried beneath convenience, be the one who listens. I already am, he replied. The channel closed. Wayfarer slipped into jump space, vanishing into the same darkness that had once hidden a lost princess. But this time, the darkness felt different, because the galaxy remembered. Years later, children in Concord schools would learn that Princess Saraline had returned to reclaim her throne. Scholars would debate her reforms. Politicians would argue over her legacy. Yet among pilots, scavengers, and wanderers who lived between mapped stars, another story endured. A quieter one. A story about how the galaxy gave up, how hope drifted unnoticed through forgotten debris, and how one human, following a signal no one else heard, proved that legends don't always arrive in fleets. Sometimes they arrive alone.